Hello. So,
And we're live.
okay. Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to be here today to talk about an issue and a condition that definitely impacts both Black and Brown communities. I'm here with three very, very active sickle cell warriors and one who is the mother of a sickle cell warrior. So I wanted you ladies to take a moment to introduce yourselves, and we're going to have a really great conversation here. My name is Kevin Brockenbrow. I work for TBWA World Health, a company that's committed to making a difference and raising some of the issues related to Black health. And what we wanted to do today was to talk about sickle cell and some of the things that are happening among those who are dealing with the condition, and also some of the things that these three ladies are doing to make life a little bit better for those who are experiencing it. So ladies, if you could take a minute to introduce yourselves. Let's start with Cassandra, do you want to start?
Sure. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cassandra Trimnell. I am executive director of a nonprofit organization that specializes in sickle cell education. Its name is Sickle Cell 101. I am also a certified sickle cell educator by the Department of Public Health, and I am an adult living with sickle cell disease type SS.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Crystal Vivas, and I am mother and advocate for Joey. You may know him on social media as Sickle Cell Warrior. I work closely with Candace's Sickle Cell Fund and also Kay Crawford, the William E. Crawford Sickle Cell Fund. Joey also has type SS.
Okay. Okay. And Lady T.
Hi, my name is Tiana Woolford. I am 29 years old. I was born with sickle cell genotype SS, and I am the founder and CEO of SC Red, which is the first and only nonprofit to focus solely on sickle cell and reproductive health.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Ladies, I want to help those who are less familiar with the disease know a little bit more about what's involved. So can you tell me what it's like to live with sickle cell? And I know you're going to have a slightly different perspective, Crystal, because you'll be able to tell us what you're dealing with as a mom. But if ladies, if you could tell us a little bit what it's like to actually have sickle cell. What was it like growing up with it?
Sure, I'll start. So growing up, I went to a predominantly white school, and like the teachers, the staff, they were very upfront about the fact that they'd never met anyone with sickle cell. So that was really difficult, like missing school. And I literally have teachers say to me, it'd be easier if you had cancer, because then we could predict when you're going to miss school, or maybe you should go to a public school where they have more resources, but we're just not prepared to accommodate you. Growing up, I always say that I was like relatively healthy, but I only say that because I wasn't in and out having a lot of pain crisis, but I did deal a lot with like pneumonia and acute chest. And it was pretty isolating, but thankfully, I had a really supportive family and a big extended family who would kind of like rally around us when I needed them to.
Okay. Okay. Cassandra?
Sure. Growing up with sickle cell disease, that's a long answer, but I'll try my best to condense it. But I guess to provide context, one of my earliest memories of childhood is being in pain. And pain is that hallmark, I guess, symptom of sickle cell disease. Some of my earliest childhood memories are, being curled up in a fetal position and having all these adults around me trying to make things better, trying to take away the pain, trying to figure out what's going on. I When I was born, I was hospitalized on a monthly basis because
Wow.
you know, just that was the nature of the disease is, pain and hospitalization. And so that was my childhood. Essentially, it was learning how to deal with that pain, figuring out why I'm in pain, taking medications, and I'm the oldest of five kids, and so and two of us have sickle cell, but just comparing my lifestyle with my siblings' lifestyles, they got to go out to recess and play and go swimming and all of that, and mine was the opposite. I had to stay indoor for recess and couldn't go swimming, and so there's a lot of restrictions and precautions taken to manage the disease to the best of our ability. So I guess long story short, my childhood, it was full of, just it, a huge part of it was sickle cell disease. It wasn't all of it, but it was a large part of it.
Got it. Got it. Wow. Ms. Crystal.
So I know my story is a little more different because I'm a caregiver. But based on so far, because Joey's only 8 so far, I could start with when he's been in and out of hospital since he was born, actually. His first crisis was at 5 months and he caught an acute chest. And his first transfusion at the same time was his crisis. After a few months, he was getting so many complications and a crisis. They had to remove his spleen at 2.
Wow.
So since then, he's been on hydroxyurea on and off, just because I was a little against hydroxyurea because of so much side effects it has. Until he caught a real bad crisis where it left him 2 weeks in the hospital, and that really scared me. And so since that crisis, it's been 2 years he's been on hydroxyurea, and he has not been admitted, which is a good thing, because we was admitted every 4 or 5 months in the hospital for a week or more stay, and that was very difficult. As far as school, he has an IEP. He struggles a little bit with school. He also was going to a predominantly white school, and so no one in the school knew what was sickle cell or how to manage or help him in that way. So I had to make a big meeting for the school, the board. I had the doctors on call in the meeting and had to, explain what was sickle cell and give them details and give them, should I say, not advice, but give them suggestions on how to take care of him. I made a plan. Yes, guiding them how to manage. And thankfully, it went good. Everyone was listening. All the teachers was on top of it. They were encouraging him to drink water all the time. They would give him prizes just to remind him to drink water. I'm very grateful for that. But I also know that plays a huge part on where I come from. So I know where I come from. I am an Afro-Latina, a light-skinned Afro-Latina. But, with my complexion, it could be a little confusion there. So I know that if I came from somewhere else or my skin tone was a little darker, I know it would have not been as easy for me.
Okay. Let me ask a question. What question do each of you get asked the most when it comes to sickle cell? When you have curious friends or even family who want you to tell them a little bit about the disease, what question do you get asked the most?
If they don't mind, I would like to go first.
Okay.
The question I get asked a lot when I'm in the hospitals, because that's where the questions start, is, you're not Black. How do you have sickle cell? How does your son have sickle cell? And then right there, I have to woo-saw, because that gets me really angry, and I have to educate them. So I start to educate them and tell them it's not only in Black people. You know, it's in Hispanic people, it's in Caucasian people, it's in Asian, it's in India, you know, and then we go from there. And also, you know, us Hispanic people do have African in our blood. So that's another talk that I have to give them at the same time.
Yep. Yep. Good stuff. How about you other two? What do you get asked?
I get asked, what is sickle cell? We still got a long way to go with, you know, just people knowing what exactly is sickle cell. And just to provide kind of a little background or information on sickle cell, it's a blood disorder. It's a genetic blood disorder, and it essentially is characterized by red blood cells that are normal red blood cells are round and squishy and can maneuver through blood vessels very easily. And with sickle cell, there's a mutation that causes the cell to become fragile and sticky and crescent or sickle shape, which makes it harder for that cell to carry oxygen and deliver it. And so it's a multi-organ, multi-system complication that, you know, it really, because blood is, you know, we need blood in every part of our body. It really affects every part of our body. And when, you know, those blockages occur, you know, oxygen isn't getting delivered. It causes pain and a multitude of other symptoms. And so I spend most of my time, most of my conversations really just educating people on what sickle cell is. It's rare here in the US. It affects less than 100,000 Americans, but it is the most common genetic disorder globally. So it's funny that it's rare here and it's most common everywhere else. And just to provide just a little bit more background, it originates in areas where malaria is found. People who carry one gene of sickle cell are immune to malaria. And when two people carry one gene, they can have a child with sickle cell disease. So that right there is usually generally the types of conversations I have with people, is really just educating and answering questions, you know, any additional questions. Another thing that gets kind of pulled into question is pain, if the pain is real, if it's believed, you know, and that's a whole nother conversation. But that's essentially what I answer.
That's an excellent answer. Appreciate that.
Tiana? Yeah, I was gonna say the exact same thing. The first question is always, what is it? And Kaz did a really great job explaining, so I'm not gonna go into that. And then yeah, that's the exact same thing. The second is always conversations around pain, like what does it feel like? And then I get a question from a lot of moms like asking me if they feel like their child is faking, kind of like what the other two have said already. So those are pretty common questions.
Let's flip the question around, and that is, you get asked what it is, but if you had a chance to talk to a doctor, what are some things that you would say to the doctors who end up treating people with sickle cell? What could they be doing either differently, or what do you wish you could say to them?
That's a really good question. I think what I really want to do a good job of conveying to providers has to do with what Kaz is saying about it being a multi-system thing. And I wish that they would treat everyone more holistically, because I do think that a lot of times there's so much focus on pain and not enough about like fatigue and chronic everyday pain and stiffness. And mental health and reproductive health. Like, so I just wish that, and especially the part about mental health, because a lot of times we think about the pain being depressing, but we don't really think about delayed puberty. That's isolating and can be depressing, and that can start as early as like age 9. So more focus on mental health from early ages.
Yeah, I had a chance to meet a young brother who had sickle cell named Elijah Powell, who one of the things he was interviewed by, I think Chicago Tribune, but Elijah had said that he did not want to be defined by his disease. He had sickle cell, but he thought of him, he did not want to be kind of put in a box because of the disease that he had. Do any of you face or have you dealt with any stigma attached to having sickle cell? Any of you can answer.
Absolutely. I think my pet peeve, or what really something I take to heart is the thought that people think that because you have sickle cell, you can't be a productive member of society. So just to provide some background, my heritage is Nigerian. You see that a lot in my heritage, where if you say you have a sickle cell, you don't get jobs, you don't, people kind of just think, oh, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, just go off and live your life in pain and die. When it's quite the opposite. You find the whole world within the sickle cell community, and you find, we are top of our class, where musicians, bodybuilders, all these things. So for some reason people put us in constraints, which they're very damaging. A lot of people, a lot of doctors, going back to this question, a lot of doctors give what we call expiration dates, where you won't live past 18 or you won't live past 30. And so when you hear that, and when you tell someone that, they live their life a certain way, they don't live it to the extent that they can. Luckily, I was never told that. I was never given a date on when things would end for me. And I'm glad I haven't, because that already takes a toll on just your whole being. So I think that's the one that bothers me the most, is people kind of just write us off as someone. There's a term in Igbo, which is a tribe in Nigeria, where they call people with sickle cells called obanje, and it means being born to die. And that mentality there is very, very harmful.
Wow, that was excellent. Crystal, I'm wondering, have you had to deal with any teachers who might want to stigmatize your child because they have because he has sickle cell?
Thankfully, no, I have not. He's only in the 3rd grade, so I know the process just started. So I'm just praying that it doesn't happen. But so far, no. I had all supportive teachers, supportive staff, everyone very aware. So now that we're in a new area and we moved, now I have to educate another school this year coming up.
Okay. What do you say to mothers and other parents who have a child who has sickle cell? What encouragement do you offer them? Or what would you say, what have you learned that you might want to share with them?
Well, I would say don't lose faith, don't lose hope, because one day there will be a cure and all warriors will be cured. And I'm praying on it. One advice I could give is keep pushing, try to live a healthier life. I've eliminated a lot of things for Joey, and that's also contribute to his good health so far. A lot of things are not good for their health, the junk food, for older people, the alcohol abuse, the substance abuse, all of that is not, good. I know that sometimes it could take people to dark places, but don't lose faith, have hope, because there will be light in the end of the tunnel.
I like that. Is there anything you other two ladies would like to build off that statement, or anything you want to add?
Well, yeah, just adding to the stigmas that we faced, definitely like has the saying about being written off and people assume that you don't want to be just like everyone else. Another one that seems pretty universal is like the stigma around narcotics. And it's really crazy because when you're growing up in the pediatric world, the pediatricians, that whole team, they empower you and educate you. Like they want you to know what pain medicine you need at what dose. And then when you transition into the adult world, that empowerment is kind of like weaponized against you. And then all of a sudden you're being looked at as a drug seeker.
Mm. Wow.
If I might add, I right now I didn't remember for a second, but I did have his teachers a couple of times tell me, because I would warn them and say, hey, you know, Joey's going to school, but he's in a little bit of pain. And they would reach out to me and say, well, you sure? Because he's running around and he's, you know, he's working and doing. I said, he's just being really strong and not showing you. But he'll come home and say, oh, mommy, I had a long day. My legs hurt. I'm tired. And sometimes he'll take a nap, but he won't show it in school. He shows his strength. So a lot of times I did have teachers question if he was in pain or not, just because he didn't show it to them.
And that's a huge problem within sickle cell, you know, pain being believed. That is half the battle. When we with the line of work that I do with Sickle Cell 101, we always ask the community questions. And one thing we asked was, what's the most difficult part about living with sickle cell? And stigmas always comes up, and the pain not being believed, not the actual pain. And I like to provide context to that pain because people really underestimate it. So I'm a mother, and I have a 6-year-old daughter. And I think the example I like to give is, you know, the pain known that I guess the most painful experience known to man is child labor. I think everyone knows it right off the bat. Even if you haven't ever had a child, men know it. Everyone knows that child labor is you know, just excruciating. And having experienced both a sickle cell pain crisis and childbirth, I can say that child labor is a walk in the park compared to
Wow. Wow.
crisis. Yeah, and it's primarily because that it's such intense pain. It's like 10 out of 10 pain. You don't get relief. It's just continuous pain all throughout. You can't muster up any, you know, there's no downtime where you can kind of muster up, you know, the strength to go through it. And it's the type of pain where, you know, pleasantries go out the door. Like, at least for me, I am a full grown adult, like crying like a 3-year-old child in the ER because of that pain. It's the type of pain where it's just like, and I don't mean to be melodramatic, but like death seems like the easier option than going through that pain. And so it sucks because that pain is invisible, and you know, you can only you can't articulate it. You can't put into words how painful that experience is. And so you can try and your best to piece together words and try and convey it to healthcare providers, but it doesn't ever translate the way it should. And so therefore you're living with this excruciating pain that's invisible. And that, like I said, that's half the battle.
So have you, I guess over time, how have you dealt with the pain itself? Have you found different doctors? Have you used different medications? How are you dealing with the pain, since it's a constant companion?
Yeah, so luckily I don't have too much I guess episodes where it is that severe. I deal with more of a chronic pain. I got my right hip replaced, so I deal with chronic pain associated with that, and more manageable pain at home. But I'm on therapies for sickle cell, and that's why I try and take care of myself to the best of my ability to make sure I don't ever find myself in the ER in that type of pain. And so I'm trying to do everything that I can to make sure that I keep that at bay, because it really is traumatic.
Yeah, well, I feel like I actually do have frequent pain episodes now. But definitely, I feel like a lot of us have kind of come to this place where we've learned to push through the pain. Like, I have avascular necrosis and I also have my hips replaced. But I deal with like chronic back pain because I have it in my spine now. And I tend to kind of just push through that. But I've definitely started looking into like more alternatives rather than the narcotics. And I'm not an advocate for people just stopping narcotics. Like, if you need it, you need it. But like things like soaking in a hot tub or heating pads and physical therapy, exercise, that helps me a lot too.
Okay. Okay.
What I do for Joey is I do the soaking tubs and the warm baths and the hot packs. I also do chlorophyll, and I also do CBD. So I'm not advocating for everyone to have CBD, but I know it does work for Joey. We went a whole year and a half without using Tylenol or Motrin, just with chlorophyll and using the CBD.
Wow. Okay.
So I know that was a good thing, because those medications is damaging at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It helps, but damages other things.
So, Crystal, for your experience, are you working with a pediatrician who might be familiar with sickle cell, or is it just working with a hematologist? Okay.
Yes. I take Joey for his pediatrician visits once a year.
Okay.
But normally his hematologist just takes care of him all the way. Like he gives the medications, his visits. He's on my speed dial on my phone. So whenever I need to call him, he always says call him. So I'm blessed to have an awesome hematologist, because that's another, problem that a lot of doctors are not supportive with the patients.
Yeah, I would think too, if you're having a pain crisis, unfortunately, you're probably walking into an ER where a lot of people may not be familiar with the condition either. I had read something that said that even though there's like 100,000 people in the U.S. who are dealing with sickle cell, 75,000 hospitalizations annually happen in the U.S., which is kind of mind-boggling, just to be in the hospital that frequently. I wanted to ask about the impact of blood transfusion. For those who have sickle cell, are you getting blood transfusions on a regular basis, or what role does that play in your treatment?
I can take that one. So I don't get so a lot of people with sickle cell rely on monthly chronic transfusions, just to get by, to get that energy we need. I know we talk a lot about pain, but fatigue is the other thing that we battle often. To me, it feels like having 25-pound sandbags on each limb. It's just, everything is harder. The simplest task, like going to pick up the remote or getting up to get a drink of water, is very, very tiring. And that's because, we have half the blood, essentially. So blood transfusions are very, very important for a lot of people. For me personally, I haven't been transfused since, I want to say 2 years. And usually when I get transfused, it's because I want to make sure I'm in a good enough shape to travel or to do something. So that's, I get, I guess, transfusions in acute situations. So if I ever find myself in the ER, that's when I am reliant on blood transfusions. And so part of the thing we're banging the drums about is making sure that people do donate blood, because it is important. There are people who, you know, like I said, rely on it on a monthly basis and literally need blood to function, as, you know, to function, to get up in the morning. And then there are people like me who need blood in emergency situations where, you know, for some reason I'm in all this pain and my blood counts have dropped even further. And I need people to, you know, I'm reliant on blood donations. And we, to add another layer, you know, African-American blood donations, and, or I guess I should say blood donations that are congruent, I guess, to whoever the recipient is. And so I know sickle cell, you know, largely affects the Black community. So therefore we need Black donors to provide blood donations for us. So it's a big one. I know a lot of people are reliant on blood transfusions, and maybe Crystal can speak a little bit more to, you know, her experience with the blood transfusion being Afro-Latina.
So Joey has had blood transfusions during his acute chest syndrome crisis. Every time he got an acute, he needed a transfusion because his hemoglobin would drop. But now coming December makes 3 years. So,
oh, wow. Okay.
Which is really awesome. But as far as donating, you know, blood, it's very crucial, especially the Black community and the Hispanic community, because in the Hispanic community, you know, the families tend to shun the warriors. You know, they say, oh, well, you don't have that. It's not that serious. And then we don't have enough donors as well in the Hispanic community because they shun the warriors and neglect them and say, well, you don't have that. That's not what you have. Like if they're embarrassing towards the family. So thankfully, I don't have that problem. My family is very supportive, my family and friends. But I've heard plenty of stories, and I'm speaking for the Hispanic community, that they do shun, you know, the warriors. They do ignore that they have sickle cell.
Wow. Wow.
And I just wanted to add in, I saw a comment that the medication is very expensive. You know, that's another topic where it's very expensive to get medication. It's very expensive if you don't have insurance to get, you know, your test results or your blood exam or, you know, your double scanner for the kids every year. So, and maybe, I don't know if that's the next topic, but expenses is very important as well.
And then another layer to the topic of transfusions that people may not even think about is that this is a community that unfortunately is at risk for strokes. So you'll see a lot of really young children, if they have strokes, they become transfusion dependent to try to avoid the reoccurrence. And then for me personally, I was transfusion dependent as a child, which led to my developing a lot of antibodies. So I've had several transfusion reactions, one that actually sent me into liver failure. So that's really tricky because even the last transfusion I got last year, I had a really severe reaction. So that's a scary place to be. Like my hemoglobin will go as low as 4, and they still may not want to transfuse me just because of my history with reactions.
I want to talk a little bit about, you know, we touched upon the expense, but I want to talk a little bit more about, again, the stigma that is kind of attached to dealing with sickle cell. You know, how are you going about, how are you managing the stigma through the various organizations that you're a part of. Talk about some of the activities that you're doing to kind of both create support networks and to just kind of change that mindset among the people that both have the disease and the ones that they're going to be dealing with, the doctors and the other people who they may have to deal with along their journey. Can you name some of the things that your organizations are doing? Crystal, I know I was reading about some of the things that your organization was doing, even having kind of like Uber Eats for patients who may have just dealt with a pain crisis, or doing little things that can make a difference. And I guess that's kind of a summary of my long-winded question is, what are some things that your different organizations are doing to kind of make a difference for the people who are currently dealing with the situation?
So Candace's Sickle Fund also offers scholarships. So any warriors who want to continue their education, Candace's Sickle Cell Fund offer those scholarships. We also do Uber Eats. So anyone who's been released from the hospital and who was admitted, longer than a week, we will offer them a whole week of meals, because we know that they come out of the hospital and they don't have strength to make food or to prepare it or anything like that. Candace also offers tutoring programs. We also help the kids who need help in school, who are struggling. What else? We also do outreach. We reach out to the parents and we check up on them and the warriors to see how they doing, how they managing. If they need help, to reach out to the doctors. Little things like that. Whatever they need, we're here to support them.
Okay. Cassandra, with the 101, can you talk a little bit about the types of things that you're doing? I saw a really cool question in Facebook dealing with your organization, which was sickle cell disease to me is, and it was ... filling in the blank. What were some of the answers that you got to that question? Sickle cell to me is.
Yeah, no, we get such rich responses. It's an interesting question. When you leave it open-ended, you get positive responses and you get negative responses, but at the end of the day, you get real responses from the community. And I think that's part of our mission with Sickle Cell 101. Education first and foremost. We're making sure that people are educated and have the educational resources to be able to manage and navigate life with sickle cell. And so oftentimes families are diagnosed with this complex genetic disorder. They're given a pamphlet by the doctor, said, here, read this, and pretty much are left to their own devices on figuring out how to learn more about this disorder and how to navigate it. And so we're really just aiming to fill the gaps and make sure that we have an informed community and an informed general public. We do this primarily through social media. So we, our team, the Sickle Cell 101 team, is spread out across, we're international now, and we have 45,000 followers on combined social media platforms. 70% of them are people living with sickle cell, and they originate in 115 countries. So we don't take what we do lightly, just because this information is important, and information on treatments, information on dealing with the disease, how to manage it, what resources are available to you, and doing it in a way where hopefully it's meaningful on social media, and it at least sparks interest for that person to want to learn a little bit more about sickle cell and learn more about the condition.
Is there something that now that you wish someone had told you sooner about sickle cell? Something that really made kind of a difference when once you learned it?
That's a really good question. I'm learning things every day, and that's the beauty of this is, and everything is relative and useful. And it really just, I guess, aids me in when I'm speaking with my healthcare provider, or when I'm within any kind of, I guess, clinical setting. I'm able to better articulate and know my options a little bit better. So if there's anything I've learned, man, I don't know if I can pick just one thing. It really is just a constant stream of learning more. And even it's not necessarily just the information, but the way people navigate this. There's a community on Sickle Cell 101 in which we're sharing tips like, oh, hey, have you tried this? Um, and I think what's most meaningful is the perspectives other people with sickle cell disease have provided me in figuring out how to navigate it. Because, like Tiana said, sickle cell can be isolating, and so to know that other people are going through the same thing as you, and just taking their advice and really using it for however you need to get through life is probably the most meaningful way to use that information. So
I like that. Do either of the other two ladies have anything you want to add?
Well, just to the question about what organizations are doing, my organization is brand new. We just got our 501c3 status in April, but some things that we're planning specific to reproductive health. One of the biggest stigmas that I see is around fertility, pregnancy, childbearing, and family planning. And there's kind of this belief in the medical space, and then also in like the legislative space, that sickle cell warriors are too sick or too poor and shouldn't want children anyway. And so that's something that we're trying to combat. I'm really proud I have like two co-founders who are these world-renowned hematologists. And so that's something we're trying to do research, we're doing advocacy and a lot of education for warriors, caregivers, and providers. And then something that is really important to me values-wise, because there is a stigma around productivity in this community. So it's been important to me to make sure that I bring warriors in, because there's so much talent and skill set right in the community. So if you go on my website, like my graphic designer has sickle cell, my administrative assistant has sickle cell. I have like 4 board members who all have sickle cell, but they're not defined by that. Like there's so much more than that. And they are very talented, very educated, and have already proven to just be incredibly valuable to me. So I'm hitting it from a couple of different angles.
Okay. I like that. I like building a team that has both talent and knowledge. They're both familiar with what they're facing and have the talent to make a difference. That's the kind of team you want. That is the kind of team you want. What is making you kind of, obviously you're doing some things with your organizations, but are there any developments dealing with sickle cell that have you kind of excited about the future, or excited about your own future in terms of how we're dealing, how this disease can be dealt with? Any changes that are on the horizon that are giving you hope or making you excited?
Yeah, I'll start with this one because I really love the question, because I know that with the day-to-day and the reality of this disease, it can be easy to kind of focus on the negative. But I think we're all, as advocates, we know that like this is an incredible time to be a patient and to be an advocate in this community, because there are so many more treatments and things coming down the pipeline, gene therapy, they're perfecting stem cell transplant. So, and just 5 short years ago, like we didn't have all these options. We didn't even have precedent to have these conversations. So, and then outside of therapy, just I feel like there's this new energy and this new sense of urgency. Like, it's a time where patients, providers, advocates are all coming together and sitting at the same tables, trying to figure out how to affect change.
That's a great answer. Anyone else want to add to it?
Sure. What I would add is not a lot of people know, but sickle cell is the first, recognized or the first described molecular genetic disorder. And that was back in 1910, I believe, over 100 years ago. And as of today, we have 4 FDA approved therapies for sickle cell. So to provide context, there's other diseases that have been discovered after sickle cell that have a lot more therapies available to them. So we've been playing catch up for a long time. And part of the reason, there's a lot of reasons why the elephant in the room is that it's marked as a Black disease. And so with that comes, all the the stigmas and the discriminations, with research, with healthcare, with funding, with all of that. So as Tiana said, as of 2019, we doubled our FDA approved drugs. So I mentioned that I'm on therapies now. I've only just started those therapies. So I'm 33 now. For majority of my life, there's only been there was at the beginning of my life, there were no therapies available for me. 1998 was when hydroxyurea was approved. There was one. And that is kind of controversial on its own within the sickle cell community. So it's only within the last few years where I've had options for sickle cell. So for majority of my life, I was just like, I'm going to ride this disease out until until I can, so it really has changed my mindset in dealing with the disease, because now I feel like I have options that are coming up and options on the horizon. And so now I'm kind of more, instead of like riding this disease out, I'm more in self-preservation mode where I'm like, okay, I need to take care of myself because there's better stuff coming. And I want to make sure that, if I decide to get the cure, after I get the cure, I want to be able to, hike up Mount Everest or, whatever else. I don't want my body to still be, be in a bad state, in such a state where, even though I get the cure, I still have to deal with all these other, organ damage. And so, for example, I will always have my hip replacement, even if after I get the cure, I will still have my hip replacement. So I'm really just trying to make sure it's that organ damage that really does scare me. And so make sure I am in a place where I can preserve my organs to the best of my ability. And now is an exciting time because options there are emerging options, and options are becoming a lot more available to me and to the rest of the world. So that is always exciting. And then sickle cell is becoming, because of these therapies, is becoming a lot more mainstream. You see a lot of articles written in the New York Times and the media covering sickle cell. So this is where we should be, and we're headed in the right direction.
I like that. I like that. Crystal, anything you want to add?
I don't think I really can. They both said everything so beautifully. They were on point. They said everything. I couldn't agree with them more.
Okay.
We're just very excited that there is more options for our warriors. Very excited.
Let me ask this question. You've got this big audience in front of you right now. So what should the world know about sickle cell? If you could leave people with one thought, what would you want to leave them with when it comes to sickle cell? What do you want them to know?
That no matter what, you can still be whoever you want to be. Your dreams are not limited.
Okay. I like that. The other two ladies, what do you think? What do you want to share?
I'm still kind of thinking, so I'll think out loud.
That's fine.
I love, just the compassion and empathy. You really don't have to know too much about sickle cell to care or to show that you care.
Mhm.
We're still people at the end of the day. We still, I have family sickle cells, both panelists have said, it's just one part of my life. It's not my whole life. It doesn't define me. So remembering that, and then showing compassion and empathy, I think, is the best way to put it. And get educated. I guess the educator in me says, get educated about sickle cell, and help out.
I like that.
Yeah, it's kind of the same, just piggybacking off of what was already said. I think if there was like a message, it would really be, to get educated and then to apply that into support and compassion, because at the end of the day, like, we're in the beginning of the day, we're not just statistics, like, we're mothers, wives, sisters, friends, business owners, nonprofit leaders. So just to remember to show compassion.
I like that. I have one last question, and I think that for a lot of African Americans, I'm assuming it may also be true in the Hispanic community, you're taught at an early age to be kind of self-reliant, to not kind of depend on others to find a way or make a way. How successful have you been in terms of just changing that mindset so that people network and learn from each other, and are able to work together and help each other? Are there anything that you found that has worked in terms of within your organizations to get people to come together versus suffering solo, kind of working together to kind of network among each other to make a difference and help each other out? What are you finding to be successful? Is it certain types of messages? Is it certain types of, how are you getting people to actually come together and help each other out more? What are the types of messages or activities, or what are you doing a little bit differently to kind of change that mindset of, well, this is something I just got to deal with on my own?
I can answer. I would say having these types of conversations, keeping the discussion going, keeping the dialogue going. I think just with anything, if you discuss it, you leave that conversation having, additional perspective, and a better understanding of things. And so I think that's something that we try and achieve with Sickle Cell 101, where we're providing a platform, not just for education, but a platform for people to connect. And that's the beauty of social media. Growing up, I was born in Iowa, of all places. Not many Black people there, not many people of color there. And so, as you can imagine, I didn't know too many people with sickle cell. And I didn't find a community until I was an adult in college. And that was on social media. And so social media opened this whole new world where, you know, somebody could understand my pain just by the look on my face, or just, by, the words that I'm using, they understood it immediately. And that's not something I had growing up in Iowa. And so I think using social media and using these digital platforms makes the world a little bit smaller. I talk with people from Bahrain with sickle cell, from Tanzania, from India, all over the world. And I really love utilizing our platform in that way to keep people connected and make sure that we are able to find our sickle cell tribe, on social media.
Yeah, she and I are always on the same wavelength. I agree with just like keeping the discussions going. So like, in my organization, like we haven't even had our official launch yet, but one of the things that I'm going to be doing is like a storytelling initiative and just letting people share their stories, because I think that that empowerment, like you see a couple people sharing their stories and then it inspires others to do the same. And then also like we have support, or we will be having support groups. So because I just think that there's so much value in talking to other people who can understand what you're going through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. Well, ladies, you've been wonderful. If people want to reach out and reach out to you and get in touch with you, how should they do that? How can they contact you?
So we're on social media at Sickle Cell 101. Please find us, follow us, like our stuff. You know, we really are just here to spread the word, raise education and awareness. And so, yeah, Sickle Cell 101 across all platforms. If you wanted to reach out to me personally, feel free to reach out at ctrimnell@sc101.org, or you can reach out to our org at hello@sc101.org.
For me, I can be found on Facebook, just my first and last name. And then on June 19th, everybody can go to www.sicklecellred.org. That's the day that I'm launching my website, and all of my contact information is on there.
Okay. How about you, Crystal?
So you can also find us on social media as CFCF_nonprofit. I also raise awareness through my son's page is Sickle Cell Warrior 5. And I also wanted to mention Shine the Light, June 19, World Sickle Cell Day. We're having an event in New York. We're trying to get the Empire State Building to light red. So hopefully it goes through.
I like that. I like that a lot. I want to thank everybody who took the time to join us in this conversation. A lot of great information that was shared. Ladies, I wish you continued success in each of your separate journeys, or with a common goal. And again, I want to just thank you for your time. Thank you for all the information that you shared. This was great.
Thank you for having us.
All right.
Thank you so
And
much.
I just wanted to say real quick that I admire you ladies, and you inspire me to, keep advocating, and see you guys soon.
Thank you. We admire you too.
Yeah, healing is mutual. You're a warrior mom, so you are a special breed.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you.